chasing shadows in the darkest maze. Footsteps echo in the empty hall. Mysteries waiting on our call. Bigfoot stomping through the pines. Aliens sending secret signs. EVPs in the dead of night. Ghosts dancing in the pale moonlight. Paranormal form when we bring it to you. Truth behind the veil, gotta pursue you.
All right.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show.
Saturday night show. I hope everybody enjoyed our Thursday night live. That was pretty fun.
Yeah, that was
getting rocks and stuff thrown at us.
Yeah. I even caught a mist on the camera. I gotta put that out sometime.
I'll tell you, that was what was weird is that at one point, you know, we're sitting there and Jason is like, David, can you see your breath? And so I go like, no. But when we watched back, before you seen this mist come up, and then he kind of pans over the camera a little bit, and then right in front of the camera, this mist just comes up.
Yeah,
it was interesting.
That thing was after
me.
me.
Hey, Jason Finch.
That thing was after me, whatever it was. Throwing rocks at me and everything.
It was crazy.
But hey, we got a great show tonight. We got Jerry Millwood Jr. from NCI, North Carolina Investigates. Gonna be a good show.
Yeah, you know, we met him and all the guys at NCI when we was at the Bigfoot festival there in Townsend. And I'll tell you, he was an awesome guy, and really appreciated him coming over and BSing with us. As a matter of fact, there was a time you don't really get to see it on the camera. Well, yeah, you do a little bit during that where everything was trying to blow away, and he was over there actually holding our tent down for us while we was in the middle of doing was talking to Greg at the time, wasn't we? I think. Yeah. And so, so he was over there helping us hold the tent down. So that was awesome.
Yeah. We met a lot of great people over there that year, last year.
We're going to get to see quite a few of them come January 31st at the premiere of The Vanishing.
Yeah. So. The premiere, Greg Ogle, the Cryptid or Relic films got a new film out.
Yeah.
Called The Vanished. Going to premiere it in January. We're going to it.
Yeah. We're going just to go.
I think Jerry's going to be speaking at it.
Yes.
Him and some of his NCI team. But Jerry, he's a cryptid and Bigfoot investigator from the South Mountains of Western North Carolina. Now, following his retirement, he began actively researching the unexplained Appalachian phenomena he encountered on his own property. He's an investigator with North Carolina Investigates, NCI for short, and shares his personal sightings and field research on his YouTube channel called Rebels Dark Tales of Appalachia.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. It's a good channel.
Yeah, it is.
For sure.
So we're going to bring him on, Mr. Jerry Millwood.
Hey, Jerry.
How you doing?
How you doing, buddy?
Good. Doing good. It's good to be here. Thank you for your kind words. I felt a bond with you the moment that I met you.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt the same way. It was awesome.
Yeah, it is. It's fun getting out and meeting new people, especially people with the like mind, open minds. It just seems to mesh.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. I guess the first question that most people usually will ask is, what got you into the cryptids? But, you even talk about some paranormal too, but what got you into all this?
Well, I'll tell you, before there was Bigfoot for me, there was paranormal stuff. I don't know, when I was 5 or 6, I didn't want Superman comics or Batman comics. For whatever reason, don't know where it came from, but I wanted the horror comics, Ghost and Secrets of Haunted House and all those classic 1970s horror comics. When I would go to the Scholastic Book Fair at school, I've actually still got some of my books, the paranormal. Yeah,
Oh,
these
wow.
are old because I got them when I was a kid, but um, I had an interest in that. My mom used to sneak and let us stay up to watch zombie movies, and I was like 7 years old. So
Oh, wow.
she warped me from the beginning. But it was Legend of Boggy Creek that was the initial thing that caught my interest. Me and the kid raised in the country, you know, all the kids in the 70s that saw that movie was fascinated by it, but especially, you know, if you could relate to it because you were raised in the woods. So my grandfather took me to see that movie, and
Mhm.
I definitely developed an interest in it. I don't know, it came and went. You know, during the 70s, Bigfoot, there was a lot of talk about Bigfoot. And then here in the South Mountains, 1978 into 1979, there were a lot of sightings that made the AP wire that went worldwide.
Hmm.
And that was big news. Even though I didn't grow up right here at the South Mountains when I was a kid, it was the talk of the town. But as I became a teenager, I kind of lost interest. And then I was stationed at Fort Bragg. And I went by the library one day, and I happened to find a book called the Bigfoot Casebook. And in that Bigfoot Casebook, I started looking up the sightings that was in and around my part of North Carolina. And there was actually some from the hometown where my mother was living at the time. So that was more kind of got my interest. I watched some of the other movies from the 70s later. You know, I'd rent them from the videotape store there on Post. But it was always it was a totally a thing basically for entertainment. I was entertained by it. I was fascinated by it, but it was all about entertainment. And that would change in August of 2017. My wife and I had moved here to the South Mountains area, an area where I, you know, had kin that had left that area to go to work in textile mills down around Gastonia, North Carolina, Bessemer City, North Carolina. So we came back, we completed the circle. I had to get back out to the country before I lost my mind even more than I'd already lost it.
Right.
We had some experiences, guys. I found tree breaks. Hiking these woods, I found a lot of tree breaks. Now, I honestly didn't know what a tree break was at the time, but the more I saw,
Mhm.
the more I said, well, this is just not random thing. The thought crossed my head was somebody going around breaking these trees, but that didn't make sense because these trees were big enough, you know, that to break them over while they're alive, and you can tell by the splintered wood that takes a tremendous amount of force. I happened to be watching something. I forget which show it was, and I saw this fellow Lyle Blackburn,
Mhm.
who has written some really good books. And
Yep.
as a matter of fact, he did some research here in the South Mountains. So I sent him an email. To my surprise, he answered me, and he said, "Yeah, you're looking at Bigfoot tree breaks."
Hmm.
They did some logging close to us in either late 2014, early 2015, and it seems like when they did that logging is when we started having the increase in hearing vocalizations. The first thing I ever heard along the lines of a Bigfoot was a tree knock. Early one morning about 5:30. Had the window open. It was during the summer. And the tree knock was close enough that it actually woke me up.
Wow.
And we heard the whoop, the classic whoop sound. That is the most common sound to this day that we hear. And then on 9:30, August 9th in 2017, my wife and I turned on to our dead end road. And as we made that right hand turn, to the left was a cornfield. And my headlight swept the cornfield, and there, standing outside the corn just a few feet away from the road, was a Bigfoot.
Hmm.
I didn't have to think about it. It was
Wow.
absolutely massive. It was so massive that right at the moment I said, "There's no way that's somebody wearing a suit." The shoulders on this creature was just incredibly wide, and its thighs were huge. It put me in mind of Earl Campbell, the football running back's thighs times 50.
Wow.
What I aimed to do was get the car stopped. I wanted to back the car up, put the headlights on the cornfield. My wife said, "Hurry up, it's moving." And by the time I got situated, it had walked back into the corn, but you could see its head above the corn as it was moving away from us.
Holy smokes.
It wasn't a bear. I know I've combed these woods since I was a little boy, and very, very well educated by my grandpa, my daddy, on the wildlife. And a bear is not going to be 7.5 feet tall standing on its hind feet, and it's definitely not going to walk more than 2 feet.
Right.
It didn't leave a trail through the corn. A bear would have just steamrolled and left and bent stalks over. There was not a stalk bent. I didn't go in that night though. I don't want to give the wrong impression.
Yeah.
I'm not that smart, but I'm smart enough. I was smart enough to know I didn't need to go in that corn at night by myself the next day to check it out. And I knew beyond a shadow of doubt I had saw the real thing, and that ignited something inside of me. To some extent, it got my wife's attention as well, and she's very interested in it to this day, but she didn't get bit by the bug like I got bit.
Wow. She
So
knows
that-
they exist, and but she's happy with that. That's it.
Does she go on investigations with you sometimes, maybe?
Well, she will go into the woods with me. She's not big on the tent camping, but you brought that up, so I'll just go ahead and jump ahead and tell you something that definitely got her attention.
Yeah.
Last August, not this August, but last August, on August the 4th, she and I was walking in the creek in a remote stretch, an area I had only been down one time, and she had never been there. And so we stopped to take a break. And the reason we walk in the creek is because she don't like to negotiate the foliage and all that mess and the spiders.
Yeah. Creek is a lot easier.
Definitely. So we stopped to take a break, and I just thought I'd aggravate her. She don't like for me to yell the whoops or anything like that. And there we was, it was broad daylight. And I picked a stick up and I whacked a tree standing next to me at the creek. And when I did, to our right, maybe 100 feet into the foliage, probably less, got a tree knock. Whatever it used to hit the tree with, it broke. I could hear it break. And then immediately off to our left on the opposite side of the creek, again, it was very, very, very close, an answering tree knock. And I was able to talk her into just taking a knee. I said, let's just stop and observe. And she did. And she's a pretty intrepid person.
Yeah.
And we had, there was nothing to be seen or heard. We didn't even smell the smell that day, and you would have thought we would have, considering how close it was.
Now, do you think that they were following you just to see what y'all were doing, them being that close?
Looking back on it now, I believe we were down there in that remote, in more of a remote area, which is also near one of their killing fields where they kill deer. And I think they were keeping an eye on us, wanting to see what we was up to. And when I knocked, maybe the one thought the other one knocked. I don't know. But we didn't have, we got up and started walking the creek again because we didn't have anything to indicate that they were coming any closer.
Right.
Maybe 5 minutes up the creek, a rock come in from our left. As it turned out, it was a piece of quartz, a little bit bigger than a baseball, a little bit smaller than a softball. And it missed my wife's head by a few inches, right over the top of her head, splashed in the water next to us. And she was done.
Time to go.
I tried to talk her into, let's kind of get against the bank. She said, no, you stay if you want to, but I'm out. And she looked like water skiing on that creek without a boat pulling her.
I could see that being Jason.
Yeah, the rock that was through at me was not that big, but I still wanted to get out of there.
Oh, that's funny. Growing up like I did, and my family were ginsengers, and we went out and dug herbs and all kinds of stuff. And I remember, us walking, this when I was pretty young, but, walking miles back into the woods, miles and miles and miles and miles back into the woods, where there wasn't a soul. And, it never once crossed my mind Nothing ever happened to me. Um, I was always of the mindset of, I believe that they exist just because of the anecdotal evidences and the trackways and just all these different things that they have found, even the DNA research that they've done. But what tipped me over the edge was being a truck driver. I'm a reformed truck driver now for almost 2 years, but the wife and I were team drivers. So she drove during the day, I drove at night. And we were in Washington State, I-90, going west. And we were dropping off that next morning and just driving along. She's in bed, in the back sleeping. And probably about 4 car lengths ahead, it was a fog to where you could probably see their taillights of a car, but you couldn't make out what it was, so it wasn't super dense, but it was dense enough that it was a bank of fog about that far away, or where you could see about that far out. And I'm cruising, think speed limit is like 65 miles an hour or so, down through there. All of a sudden, coming out of the median, so to my left is a Bigfoot, and he's about right at that 4 car lengths away. And he crosses the interstate and goes back up the other side before I could even get to him at 65 miles an hour, just at 4 car lengths. I think I drove for probably about another 20 minutes trying to rationalize what I just saw and wonder if it was what I really just saw. And then I finally come to the conclusion that it couldn't have been anything but what I saw. It was massive. Like you said, he was tall enough that I know I could have pulled over to the side of the interstate, rolled down my window, and had a face-to-face conversation with him sitting in the seat of the semi. And he was probably every bit of as wide as the front of the semi. But what's intriguing when you really start thinking about it, because after you have years of sitting there thinking about these things, how fast he moved for such a large creature is amazing. It's just amazing at how agile and fast that they are. It still blows my mind to think about it.
Oh yeah, they're incredibly quick.
Yeah. And that's been my only time I'd ever seen one, and it was just a road sighting, just happenstance.
That's one of the more common ways that people see one is the roadside sighting, usually almost always at night. And
Yeah.
number of stories I've collected from around here where it's people who had not an interest in the world and anything to do with Bigfoot or cryptids or anything.
Right.
Happened to be at the right place at the right time. That
Yeah.
night that it happened to me and Nancy, I mean, we were like you. We were at the right place at the right time. Although I believe that night, that creature fully intended to stand there and let us see him if he didn't want us to see him. He saw us coming up that road before we made that right-hand turn,
Right.
which
Yeah.
introduced a whole nother set of questions, I would suppose.
I think, to me, my opinion I think they let people see them who they want to see. You know what I mean?
You think that they pick the
I think
people?
they pick the people that see them. I do. I don't know why, but it's just something I believe.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think other than sometimes on the roadside sightings when maybe they're caught by surprise, say the car comes over a hill or something, but most of the time they're seen because they allow themselves to be seen. And I believe that they can read people. I really believe that now.
Yeah. Where are you on the this is a fun one to talk about. Where are you on the scale of flesh and blood and woo when it comes to the Bigfoot? Because there's a big divide when it comes to that.
Yeah, I tell you, I was in the camp of strictly flesh and blood for a long while. And the other 2 times that that I saw one, I can't help but think that they disappeared. I mean, they could have conceivably went across those fences and got in the woods so quick that it just seemed like they disappeared. But I'm pretty good at observing things. I was in the Army. That's what I did. I was a forward observer. Pretty good at noticing things. And that made me start thinking. But I'll tell you guys what really pushed me toward being more open-minded about things. And that was that show, The Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In specific, the prior owner that owned the ranch, Robert Bigelow, he hired a whole team was out there. They partnered with the government. He had scientists and researchers and
That was called
even
NIDS.
yes, NIDS.
Yep.
Even his security was high, and he had guys ex-special forces. But two members of Bigelow's team saw what they described as a little black circle that got bigger and bigger, and then they could see into this circle that opened up, and a creature, a Bigfoot type creature, stepped out of it and looked around and then just walked off until it disappeared into the woods below them, or whatever it was. And when I read that in the book, and I forget which of my books that's in, but that made me think. And then the more that I see, the more things that blow my mind, that proves that we're not even close to having things figured out. And the more that I consider all of the Bigfoot evidence, I have to think that there's something beyond flesh and blood to these guys.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I know Jason does. It's funny how you get a trackway that will just end in the middle of a open field. How else is that happening? And a lot of the flesh and blooders, well, they're perfectly good at walking back through their tracks. Okay. I mean, but how does that explain the ones where they're running and then it just does it? Because you can't run the same way that you run back forwards as you can backwards and hit those same tracks. I mean, so at some point you gotta sit there and rationalize it and say, okay, what makes more sense, A or B, and then, for me, it's Native American tales. For thousands of years, they said that they walk in both worlds, not only our physical plane, but also into the spiritual realm, that they're beings that are of both places. And, they also talked about the orbs and all these things that some of these people want to just, poo-poo really about. It's funny that they talked about them 1,000 years ago and further back. And, we're still seeing that this is true today.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you looking back across the Native American history, and all the tribes have words for Bigfoot, or words for a Bigfoot like creature. There's 3 words in Cherokee alone. And all of the Native American tribes hold the Bigfoot in high esteem, but like you're saying, they hold it in high esteem really from a spiritual standpoint.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
And then there's all the connections. Here in the South Mountains, this is an area known for high strangeness, from ghosts, orbs, UFOs, weird lights on the ground, in the trees, up in the sky, stories of demons and witches, ghosts of giants. And we see in a lot of Bigfoot hotspots where it's similar circumstances, where it's not just Bigfoot, but they see the orbs, or there's some kind of supernatural activity that goes on. Land Between the Lakes is a good example.
Yes. Yes.
Some kind of connection there that meshes all of that stuff together and draws them to one place. They're all part of the same thing, is what I'm getting at. That's what that's the thought I can't get out of my head. I still try to sometimes lean more toward flesh and blood. You know why? That's the easier answer, but I know better.
Right. Well, I think if it was flesh and blood strictly, we would have a lot more evidence and maybe even a body or something by now. There's a reason we don't, and it isn't just because they're elusive. There's got to be something else. And you know, anytime what I think what gets me the most is like you have a lot of researchers that are out there, and they'll get all these stories, but then they'll cherry pick what they want. And I won't name any big research organization or nothing, but they're really bad about it. Anything when it comes to the woo, they just throw it out, And if for 40, 50 years or so, thinking in this three-dimensional way of thinking has not yielded anything at this time, maybe it's time to start expanding what we think about,
What did I do?
You took him off right here.
You're back. Are you back?
Yes.
I'm back.
Okay. Sorry about that. And I hit the wrong button.
Right.
But,
Well, you're right. We
go ahead.
I talk about skeptics and say the general population and put them under the description of, well, they don't want to think outside the box. And it dawned on me that I was being guilty of what they was being guilty of, only just on a different level. And we can't stay stuck in a box to figure all this out and to find all the answers.
Yep. Absolutely.
I'm starting to see more and more researchers and investigators take different kinds of equipment now.
That's
think
what I was going to ask him.
I think they're coming around. We have a lot of paranormal equipment, and we're seeing a lot of that being used in Bigfoot research.
Yeah.
So maybe we could find something a little different.
Well, I take an EMF meter out with me when I go. I own very little equipment to begin with, but my son bought me an EMF meter for Christmas a couple years ago, and I have worn that thing out, and I've gotten some surprising results out of it.
Yeah, I've watched some of your videos, some of the orbs and stuff right there on your property.
Yeah.
What do you think about orbs?
Well, I have to just say that, I've kind of narrowed it down to a few things. I think that for sure, they're more in the supernatural realm.
Mm-hmm.
They're not just pure physics. I don't think the orbs in and of themselves has to do with extraterrestrial life. I just think they're spiritual objects or spiritual beings.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's a connection between them and Bigfoot, more so than any other thing that we would hold in the paranormal realm.
Right.
We see a lot of orbs here. I've been fortunate to get a lot of good pictures, a lot of good videos. It's fairly common around here, and the history of interaction with cryptids here is long, and the history of the orbs is equally as long. So one's been here as long as the other.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they're somehow involved in can a Bigfoot transport itself and morph into some kind of form that appears to us as an orb and then move and then go back to its shape as a Bigfoot. I don't know.
Right. I know we was watching one of
You think
Greg's
our minds are
linked
somehow?
Yeah.
I'm thinking the same thing. Go ahead though.
Watching one of Greg's movies, and at one point there's an orb, and it's a beautiful like blue orb, and that sucker's just sitting there getting brighter and stuff. But then as he's going through the footage, what they didn't notice because I was too busy looking at the orb was like a Bigfoot prone, like spider crawling, kind of coming towards them. And I wonder if sometimes it's used or in conjunction with, or somehow the Bigfoot can control these things, but somehow it's used in a way of, hey, look at this. It's like a sleight of hand, where the magician gets you to look at one thing while they do something else, and then you think it's magic. And I'm wondering if it's used in that kind of a way. It when I saw that, I was like, man, that's impressive, scary, but impressive.
Yeah. Early in my days with the NCI show on that we do on Channel 12 TV, I remember an episode, we devoted most of the episode, somebody sent in pictures. They sent in a picture. There was no doubt what we were seeing there by the riverbank was a squatch. But then the squatch was gone, and there was an orb above that area where the creature had been.
Mm.
And I think
Man.
that was the first time that I had ever seen anything with my own eyes, Bigfoot and orb, virtual back-to-back pictures.
Right.
He's gone as an orb. So that's the kind of thing that's happened that just makes me keep considering different things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think, if we close our minds to one thing or another, and we hyper focus on one thing, that we're missing the greater picture, uh, maybe, like you were saying earlier, maybe all of it somehow is tied in together, all of it from ET all the way down,
Yeah, exactly. That very well could be the case, because we don't understand the spiritual realm. We don't understand the extra physical realm. We don't even understand physics, and that has to do with matter and gravity and all that. And we don't even fully understand physics, much less the spiritual realm that God created.
Yep.
Right.
As a matter
Yep.
of fact, I'll tell you something that made an impact on me one time. I made a friend with a fellow whose name was Henry Eagle. They called him not Henry, Richard Eagle, and they called him Chief Eagle. He really wasn't a chief, but that was just a nickname, a loving nickname they had given him. But I met him by happenstance, and me and him became good friends. And he was part Cherokee, part Shawnee, and so he kind of took me under my wing. And one day we were talking about the spiritual, the supernatural, and he reached behind him there at his little Native American art shop that he had, and he pulled out a plain white piece of paper out of the printer, and he held it up, and he said, you see this piece of paper? I said, yes, sir. And he took a red ballpoint pen. He made a tiny little dot on that piece of paper, and he said, that dot represents what we understand about all this.
Right.
We don't have a clue.
Right. Right. Yeah, we're stumbling in the dark trying to find the light switch is where we are.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's what gets me sometimes when, a lot of people will sit there and start putting things in, contexts that don't belong to the subject itself. And to me, it's hard to nail any of this down to one specific thing, because it encompasses so much, all the way across the board. And so when I talk about it, I try to talk about it openly. So then that way it's I'm not putting or any defining edges around it, because, I think it's like you just said, you get to where you've perceived that edge to be, and then all of a sudden there's nothing there, and you could keep on walking. You've not reached the edge of it yet.
Exactly. Yeah, that's well put.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you have any good stories?
Oh, we have had a lot of experiences ourselves ever since August of 2017, and even before that, with hearing the vocalizations and all of that. I think most of them that shows themselves around here the ones that will come up out of the woods late at night and beat on the side of our house, or out of mischief, I reckon, come and just mess things up in our backyard, or they bust my feed. They don't bust them open. They open my feed barrels and eat out of them.
Wow.
I think that they're youngins, they're adolescents who, more reckless. They're less wise. Most of the
Right.
footprints I've been found have been in the adolescent range. The second one that I saw wasn't even an adolescent. It was younger than being adolescent. If we're equating it, to the human growth cycle, it was maybe 5 foot tall, reddish brown fur or hair, and it had I don't know, an odd quality about it, like a glow or something.
Hmm.
And it was there, and then it was gone. The third time, family member of mine, he was here over the Christmas holidays in December 2019. We had a ruckus outside with one of the hound dogs that lives next to me. And the hound dog was losing its mind out there. So we went outside, and I knew something was up immediately. We could smell the stench, the smell. And I told Josh to stay put. And I run in the house, got my spotlight, and I gave it to him. And I asked him just to start using his phone, turn on the video, and start scanning with the phone and spotlight together. And just for a split second, a full grown, well, not full grown, but 7.5 feet tall. So it was later stage adolescent or early adult, I guess. And then it just so quick, turned around, stepped over my 4-foot fence, stepped into the woods below my pasture. And by the way, in those woods below my pasture is a really, really old graveyard on my property.
That's
We see a lot of strange lights and things in that patch of woods. There's been 4 rock throwing incidents in or near here where we live. And when I say near where we live, I mean in the South Mountains in general, there's been a lot of rock throwing incidents. I'm talking about in my little neck of the woods, about 5 miles south of the boundary to the South Mountain State Park. I told you about the rock being thrown at my wife's head.
Mm-hmm.
November of 2020, my cousin had become interested, and they came to camp. We started camping. That started to be a regular thing, at least twice a year. He and his crew would come, and we would camp in the same spot and do a night hike. And it was uneventful, except to say that we heard a couple tree knocks while we were doing the night hike. And as we were walking back to camp, a rock came in from our right. It barely missed a friend of mine's. Now my friend was taller. He's about 6'2". He was right in front of me. It barely missed his head and hit the ground and bounced. And then the second rock throwing incident that I was part of prior to the one where my wife was almost hit in the head was I was in my friend's brand new Jeep. We were checking bridges. Now what I do is I go to all the bridges out here on the back roads, and I look under the bridges. It's a great place to find tracks. And we found one track. It was a large sandbar. In the very middle of that sandbar was about a 17, 18 inch track. And that thing was so deep. It was so deep. You're talking 700-800 pounds easy. But the thing was, it was one track. It was 4 foot from the water's edge to the track, and then 4 foot from the track to the other water's edge. So you're looking at a stride of at minimum 4 feet. And I'm sure it was more than that, but it was pretty apparent that it was running and it was chasing the deer, because there was a huge buck tracks also in that sandbar, and you could tell that the buck was running probably for its dear life. We took pictures, and we got my buddy's Jeep, brand new Jeep, wasn't but a couple months old, and started driving up that dirt road, and a rock come in and hit the top of his Jeep. It sounded like a gunshot. It went off. And we didn't find the rock because it bounced off the top of the Jeep into the woods and rolled down into the holler. But it was big enough to put a gouge in the top of that Jeep. That carbon fiber material or fiberglass or whatever it was. It put a pretty healthy gouge in that thing.
Oh my goodness! I bet he was sick, wasn't
He was- he wasn't he said at least nobody, at least where it's at, nobody can see it.
he?
And
Right.
plus, it's kind of a badge of honor to say you
Yeah.
had a Sasquatch throw a rock at your Jeep.
I got a question
Okay.
about the rock throwing. What do you think they're doing when they're throwing rocks? Because it's pretty common for them to throw something at you.
I think that they're letting you know they're there and that you're not welcome in that area at that particular time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You think that they purposefully miss, like you said, just like firing a warning shot?
Yep, I do. I think they purposely miss because think about it. You know, that's their domain. One of the weapons that they have at their ready disposal is rocks.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you learn how to throw a rock. You know, just like we're raised to play baseball, we can throw a baseball
Yep.
and throw a rock. And I've never collected a story from this area, although people have been hurt by Sasquatches and creatures in other areas of the world. But in my area, I've never collected one story from anybody of someone being hurt. The closest it came was rock throwing in it, and I have no accounts from my area of anybody actually being hit by the rock. I run into a story. I met a man at the Westminster Bigfoot Festival in South Carolina. Gave me his number, and I called him. Him and his father had an experience, and they were in a boat. They'd already seen the creature, and they was hightailing it down the river, and rocks started coming in from one side of the river, and a couple of them hit the man's son who was laying face down in the boat, but I don't think they meant to hit him. So it's a warning shot. If they wanted to hit you, they could. I mean, heck, if they're close enough to throw a rock, they could bum rush you and take you before you knew what happened.
Yeah. Yeah. They're
But it's-
definitely faster than we are.
I think he froze up.
Hello?
Hey, can you hear
Oh,
me?
Yeah. Yeah. We got you. But no, I said, I think that they're definitely faster than we are, you know? Have you ever had, anything happen to you like, where they'll kind of run in on you, those bluff charges and stuff like that they do? Have you ever had anything like that happen to you?
Well, I can't say that I've been bluff charged, but what I call it is being bluff yelled at. Last thing that I do every night before I settle in for the night and go to bed is I have to go out to the pasture to check all my farm animals, all my wife's pets. We got llamas, alpacas, you never know. And I always get a head count at night because if an animal gets hurt or sick, they'll often go off by themselves, which here means they're going to go downhill next to the fence down at the woods. And so if I'm missing one, I have to account for it and make sure it's okay. So a number of things have happened to me over the years while I was doing that very thing. The first time that I was ever just totally scared out of my wits was I was looking for an alpaca that was missing. I was spotlighting the woods there just below my fence, and a set of red eyes looking back at me. I'd never seen that before. I had seen green eye shine. I had even seen a yellowish red eye shine, but this was bright red eye shine, and that scared the devil out of me. But it didn't bluff charge me or anything. It didn't yell or nothing. The eyes were there, and then they were gone. The second time something happened, I was whistled at. It's hard to really describe it, but it definitely didn't sound like a person whistling. And who's going to be in that patch of thick woods at 10:30 at night, just standing there waiting on me to come downhill, which I normally don't do, to whistle at? That seriously creeped me out. But the two other times that I've been scared, both involved times when they were really close and they yelled at me. It was the first time sounded like it either exhaled a really, really huge breath or inhaled and then went. "Ruh." And I
Mm.
felt like that was its way of telling me that I was too close to get back up the
Wow.
hill. Figure they were probably hunting deer down there. The second time, it was much closer and I could actually feel it.
Ooh.
So while I could feel it in my chest like you're standing next to a bass speaker for a split second.
Man.
I wonder what frequency that would be. Be pretty
I-
low, wouldn't it? Would it be a low frequency?
I would
Yeah.
think so. Yeah.
It
I
was
would think.
really, really low frequency.
Yeah.
I heard a lot of people talk about, getting that growl, as it just feels like it's entered their body. I mean, it's pretty weird the way they talk about it. I even heard of a couple of people, Matt, one of them said that they've even like got inside their head and was talking to them.
Yeah. Matt Seaver talks about mind speak. That's interesting to me.
Believing that I met people who I heard them, out of their own mouth, looking eye to eye with them, describe what they went through, and there's no doubt in my mind they experienced what they said they experienced.
Right.
The closest thing that I've come to that was one of the times that my cousin and that crew came to camp and we did a night hike. This was about a year and a half ago or so. And I was, I know these woods the best, so I was point man. And I got disoriented. I got completely disoriented. And I had no clue how I led us to where we got to. And I know these woods, the back of my hand can walk them blindfolded.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm told is that, there's also a wavelength or frequency they can hit you with. They call it, infrasound.
Infrasound. Yeah.
And I think I was out in front of everybody that night. And I believe I got hit by that and it just disoriented.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
part of what I did in the military, I had to be very proficient at land navigation and map reading. Certainly not going to get lost on my own property, but that night it happened.
Right. That's what I used to tell people all the time, going ginsenging and stuff like I used to do. You was just out in the woods and you just had to be, I guess, have your mind enough about you to be able to find your way back to where you started. Because if you don't pick landmarks and things like that, watch where the sun is as you come in and as you go. Because if you don't pay attention to certain things, you're going to get turned around and you ain't coming back out. You're not coming back out. And but it kind of takes me back to like some David Paulides type stuff, that missing 411 stuff, where it seems like there's stories of people that have been, just in the woods hunting or doing whatever and have been to these places thousands and thousands of times. And then all of a sudden, or hundreds of times hunting and stuff. And then they're missing. A lot of times their clothes are folded up and their guns just sitting there, but they're just missing. It's weird.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And it happens. It happens so often. I mean, David Paulides has written how many books now and made
Yeah.
3 documentaries plus all
Yeah.
of the things he does on YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah.
The answer to most of those disappearances are within the realm of the unexplained.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty interesting, especially though, when you start looking back, the old timers used to tell you, they called Bigfoot, but one of the words for him was whistlejack because of the whistling. But a lot of the old timers would tell you, you never go into the woods and whistle. You do not whistle in the woods ever. And they would beat that into their kids' heads. You do not go into the woods and whistle. They would also tell you, you can't, if you hear a baby crying or you hear certain things, you do not go towards it, or a woman screaming, because these were tactics. The Native Americans said that sometimes they would steal women and children. Bigfoot would.
Yep. Yeah, Bigfoot's not a nice guy, so to speak, everywhere.
Right.
And plus, you have to account for the fact that they're going to be like humans. I mean, you're going to have some of them that are meaner than others. It's got different personalities. The type
Yes.
that snatch a kid or a woman or even a full-grown man.
Yep.
The problem is these people disappear, and we don't know what got them, but we've got some ideas.
Yeah.
I've heard a couple of different theories about that. One is that the adolescent Bigfoot leaves its family, family to go find another Bigfoot, and when it goes to a different area, I don't know. I've heard that is when they become aggressive and stuff. And I don't know. I've heard that, and I've also heard that it's like tribes. You have different tribes of Bigfoot, different, like you were talking about. But I think some are aggressive and some are very nice. But that's just a couple of theories I've heard.
I think
Yeah.
the adolescent Sasquatches are the ones that will be the ones that will get aggressive really quick.
Yeah.
Yep. 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 We was talking to Scott before he passed, and he was on our show. What was it, like 6 months ago, I think, or so, 6 or 7 months ago? But he was talking about that. He was talking about the fact of that. That app? I forgot the name of it, but the one that tracks all the Bigfoot sightings and stuff, and they put little pins and everything. He says if you follow those and you really look back throughout the years that it's been out, you could almost see the range of these things are like a 2-year range where they start at one point. It takes them 2 years to get back to that point, and that's kind of their range. And so say a family has, a son or 2 sons or whatever, but once they get to a certain age, it's time for you to leave and go find your own. And he says that he believes that that's when they really get,
Yeah.
Pretty aggressive and stuff because they're out on their own and all that.
Right. And one of the things that I've learned somewhat in part to my experience is like getting yelled at. They were telling me, we don't want you here. And I think they were hunting or we want you out of this area. So they throw a rock. But I've gotten to interview so many different witnesses now over the past 4 years or so. And there's several tales. Well, they're not tales. I didn't even mean to use that word. Several accounts where these witnesses that I've talked to had some very, very scary encounters right here in the South Mountains. I think it came down to the fact that these people were too far into the brush. They were too far into the Sasquatch territory, into the interior of the South Mountains. One occasion, a friend of mine who just recently passed, but twice while he was in the South Mountains hunting, he was chased out. Him and his uncle was chased for several miles before it was a big male alpha, huge, that if it wanted to catch up with them guys, it would have. But it stayed behind them, and when they stopped, it would start putting on these threat displays and rocking back and forth and showing its teeth and yelling. Then the other case, he was by himself. He was in an area, and he made a bad mistake, one you don't want to make. If you're in an area known for squatches, you don't want to stay in there by yourself and let it get dark. And it was getting close to sundown. He was squirrel hunting, 16 gauge shotgun, and another big male started coming uphill toward him. And he said, Jerry, I don't know why I did it, but I put my back up against a tree and I watched it for a second and I just kind of looked down. And he said it turned and it walked off and he left. Another occasion where 2 young men, 2 brothers, this was back decades and decades ago, had got permission to go deep into the South Mountains to when it was still private property. They got permission to hunt and trap on a parcel of property, but the old man that owned it said, now, there's some old homesteads on the hilltop. Do not go around those old homesteads. They were abandoned. And they asked him why. He said, just don't go there. And they did. And they wound up being chased out of there by what sounds to me like pretty much a whole clan of Sasquatches.
Hmm.
But again, if those creatures had wanted to overpower my friend Ralph or those two brothers and kill them, nobody had ever heard from them again, and we would have never known what happened.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what gets me about some of these, people who paint them as this terrible thing that they're bloodthirsty and all this. I think more often than not, you would have more dead people and less people coming out with stories, if that was true,
Exactly.
And so the fact that we've got so many people that come out with stories of seeing them or having these kinds of things going on and all that, shows that they're not that aggressive to where they're going to try to kill you or do anything like that. They just want you gone. Just get out of here. Maybe you're getting too close to their little ones or something, whatever it is.
Evidence shows that if they're going to start inflicting harm on something, it's going to be dogs.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of dogs around here hurt, missing, killed. You remember I was talking about the red bone hound that was going nuts and alerted us. We wound up seeing one in the pasture. Well, that same red bone hound was missing for about half a day, and I found it in my barn barely alive. Its back, its rump was just absolutely torn up, and there was bark stuck in its rump. So obviously it had been slammed against a tree. It had these weird puncture wounds kind of on its back. And I believe a Sasquatch grabbed it. And they've got nails. They have to. Grabbed it forcefully to slam it up against that tree. It penetrated the dog's skin, and somehow the dog got away.
Wow.
But it wound up dying of internal injuries. And just up the road from us, just about a year ago or so, man's big 80-pound dog was found in the creek with his back broken. But the dog was still alive. And the vet said, I don't understand how this dog's back got broke. There's no external trauma whatsoever. So what does that tell us? Creature picked it up, broke its back, and threw it down.
Yeah. Yeah. We had
for that.
Yeah. Yeah. We have a guy that came on the show, Steven with Arcane Discoveries, and he lives right here around where we live, and he had a story about going bear hunting, and they all let out a bunch of dogs, and two of them were young, so they didn't quite follow the pack, and they got another smell and went off. And one of the two, I guess, finally caught back up with the other pack, but the other one didn't. And its tracking collar just showed it there. And so after everything was over and they got the bear and everything, they went to look for the dog. And he said that when they went down, they almost didn't see it. He said he saw the radio collar, but something had just went like that and just squished his head, flatter than a pancake, and then buried it with leaves, pushed a ton of leaves on top of it. And he's like, that was a Sasquatch.
Yeah, that's wild.
Because a bear ain't going to do that. Yeah. Yeah.
A bear could not squash that dog's head like that.
Yeah.
I think that they have natural animosity toward dogs because dogs are they're automatically going to show aggression to something that's out of the ordinary.
Yes.
And I think that they've killed pigs around here and goats. I believe most of the time the pigs and goats are for food. They kill a lot of deer. I have found a number of deer, usually in a really, really concentrated area. It's the ideal kind of grounds, topographically speaking, that allows them to funnel them into an area. They bum rush them, they ambush them, break their necks, they crush their ribs, break legs, pull legs off. But the dogs, I think they do it out of self-protection. I don't think it's mean. And I know there's all these dog stories that don't have a happy ending, but there is one dog story with a happy ending. If y'all want me to tell that one.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely.
We'll let you can tell it, and then we'll go to a break.
Okay. And this I know is 1000% true because it happened with the dog that belonged to me and my wife. He has since passed of old age, but, and just to preface this before anybody starts grabbing tissue thinking this is going to be a sad story, this has got a happy ending. But his name was Scoot. He's a little 8-pound Yorkshire Terrier, with silky haired Yorkshire Terrier. And we rescued Scoot. He was already 15 years old, and he had just a couple teeth when we got him, and those fell out. He was blind, totally blind, and he could hear, but not very well. But for whatever reason, anytime Scoot would go out the back door, he would go down by the house, hang a left, and every time head toward the holler across the road. Well, he got out in the morning, and my wife didn't realize he had gotten out. So by the time I noticed he was missing, he was gone. And I spent all that day and all the next day, all the way up until dark, both days, looking for the dog. Oh, my heart was broke. And by the end of the second day, I had given up because just a helpless little guy, blind, teeth, no teeth. Everything in these woods would want to eat him. Even a coon or a skunk would eat him if they were given off. And I gave up on him. And I figured he's fell and gotten down to the creek, fell in and drowned, or something's ate him. Well, on the 19th day, my neighbor came up here on his ATV and said, "Your dog's down at the creek." The 19th day.
Holy smokes.
And I thought that he meant the dog was dead. And I said, "You mean its body?" He said, "No, it's alive." And then I assumed that it was a case of mistaken identity, that it was a different dog. Well, I went down there, and there, down in the creek on the sandbar, was my dog. Look, he was perfectly dry. I went down the bank of that creek, about a 6-foot bank. I went down it like I was back in the Army, crossed that water and grabbed him up. Boys, he stunk to high heaven, not like a wet dog or a dirty dog.
Yeah.
He smelled like the stench that we smell, that's associated, with Bigfoot. And it was so horrible. It brought tears to my eyes, but it didn't keep me from continuing to hug him. And he had no footprints around him, not even his own, on that sandbar. Now, come to find out, he had gained a little bit of weight during the 18, almost 19 days that he was gone. So what was the dog eating? What was protecting him? We had a very heavy rain during that time spell, and because we live on such steep property all around us, you get a quick rain. Well, you guys know, in mountainous areas, it'll wash you downhill in a heartbeat.
Yep.
And I have but one conclusion.
Yeah.
That the dog was taken care of by these creatures.
That's
amazing. Think that they were setting it on that spot on the creek, because my neighbor ride down through there every morning looking. He was a bird watcher. Especially for the wood ducks that come in. And I believe finally on that 19th morning that he happened to see it. I believe they set the dog down from the top of the bank, backed off, and was watching. And I believe that as sure as I'm sitting here talking to you. There's no other explanation possible.
That's an amazing story, though. I mean, not only did they take care of him, they fed him, because you said he even weighed more, for a blind, deaf, no teeth dog. Like you said, after 19 days, I mean, you would assume the worst, but not for him to come back in excellent health and even bigger than he was when he left.
You remember? Do you remember that?
Of a pound.
Wow.
You remember that cartoon? There's a Bugs Bunny cartoon, and the abominable snowman, grabbed Bugs Bunny and said, "I will love him and pet him and call him George." That reminds me of something like that.
But you know, to for them to even know where the dog belonged and then bring him back is pretty amazing too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure they saw me in the woods those 2 days, and they could tell that I was upset and frantic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they had compassion on that little guy because he didn't pose any threat to them.
Yeah. Yeah. Being partially blind, he probably just thought another person picked him up.
Oh, he was blind. He could not see at all. Completely, totally blind.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Yeah. My little dog, baby dog, she's half Yorkie and you could start seeing her eyes are kind of getting the filmy a little bit, you know, on them. So she's 12. This January she'll be 13.
Well, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break.
When we come back, though, you want to talk a little bit about your last go around over here at the Land Between the Lakes on this last filming and stuff that y'all was doing?
Sure, that'd be great.
Yeah. And talk a little bit about that stuff. Awesome.
All right. So we'll be back in about 4 minutes.
Yep. Everybody stay put. Don't go nowhere.
We're talking with Jerry Millwood Jr. from North Carolina Investigates, and we'll be back right after this.
In the heart of Madisonville, Tennessee, lies a pizzeria like no other. Step through the door of Legends and Lore Pizzeria and be transported to a realm where paranormal and cryptid encounters, along with mouth-watering pizza, go hand in hand. Meet Eddie and his crew, who serve up slices of the supernatural along with the best pies in town. With the walls adorned with eerie artifacts, indulge in piping hot slices that melt in your mouth and tease your taste buds. And it's not just the locals who love the incredible pizza. Legends and Lore has been selected as the best pizza joint in all of Monroe County. As lovers of everything pizza and the paranormal, the owners have mastered the art of crafting unforgettable combinations that will leave you wanting more. To stay connected with this mystical eatery, follow Legends and Lore Pizzeria on Facebook, where tales of their latest creations and upcoming specials will be shared. Make sure to browse their custom menu, featuring legendary pizzas like the Chupacabra Ranch and the Exorcist. So, whether you have an appetite for the supernatural or simply seek the best pizza in town, Legends and Lore is the place to be. Come for the unforgettable flavors, stay for the captivating stories, and find yourself in a world where legends and pizza collide.
What if the world we know is merely a fraction of reality? What if there are forces, entities, and phenomena that exist just beyond our comprehension in the shadows of the unknown? Welcome to Paranormal 411, your gateway to the unexplained and the downright chilling.
Get ready to rock with the electrifying sound of Catalyst, a band that's sure to leave you wanting more. With their powerful lyrics and killer riffs, Catalyst is a great sound in the world of rock music. You can listen and find Catalyst on Bandcamp, or go to the link at paranormal411.org and click on their banner.
All
All
right.
right. We're back
I'm
from that quick
music.
break. Yeah, those are our really good friends, Catalyst East Tennessee, and they do have some really good music.
Yeah.
So I'm to dial those guys up. I assume they're on YouTube.
I think they have some stuff on YouTube. If you go to our website, paranormal411.org, and I've actually got a link to their Bandcamp page, and all their albums are on there. You could actually listen to all their stuff right there for free, or you could download it. But they've got some really good music.
I forgot you got a band too, don't you?
Well, I won't say that I have a band. I sing with the band called Dreamer.
Uh-huh.
Those guys, they'll do a concert, and I'll usually go sing a song or two with them. But yeah, they're awesome to be part of. They do mainly 70s and 80s rock.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Guys,
classic rock.
some Scannard, some Southern rock, some 80s
yeah.
music, and Judas Priest and Ozzy and Van Halen and all the classics.
Yes, love
Yeah.
all of it.
My brother had a band all his life. Man, he could play the guitar. He played lead, and he was a singer too. He could play any instrument. But I would follow him around everywhere, listen to him play. His band, the name of it was CAB, which stood for Cheap Ass Band. it was pretty cool. I thought he was a rock star, really.
Oh, that's funny.
So we had a question in
Yeah.
the chat here.
Just after the break.
Yeah, let's see if I can find it. Here we go.
Right there.
Yeah. Unacknowledged Unknown asked, what type of vocalizations did you hear, if any at all? I don't know what we was talking about when they asked, but
What time is it now? 9:15. So that was 9:08. So that was something we was talking about just before we went to
probably
break.
the
Around
documentary.
Here in our area, I've heard pretty much every Bigfoot sound you can hear, from the most common things, wood knocks and whoops, all the way up to the more rare deep howls, the very scary sounding thing. The first time I heard it, it horrified me. But I've heard the whole range. The only thing I've never heard was the chatter, the gibberish. I had a family camping down here in my creek bottom last year, the last weekend of July of last year, that heard the gibberish. And then I had a person that lives near me back about 30 years ago. She came out of her house early one morning, and out in the field behind her house, she heard the gibberish. But I've never heard the gibberish, but I've pretty much heard everything else. Even the mimicry, where they mimic owls or coyotes. We don't have much of a coyote problem in this general area. They stay out on the periphery, beyond the ridges that are around us. I wonder why.
Yeah.
But I've heard them imitate dogs. And I swear one night that it sounded like somebody saying a human word. I couldn't make out what it was, but I felt like it was a poor attempt at trying to mimic a human.
Wow.
Yeah.
Foot Clan says, what is it? I've heard the chatter in direct response to vocalization, talking into the woods, and also heard a whoop for the first time this year, and have heard the Ohio howl in the state of Maine.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, we have the very first commercial that's on there is Eddie and Susan, Legends and Lore Pizzeria. They're just right down the road from us. Awesome place, right? It's everything's cryptid themes. Even the names of the pizzas are cryptid themes. But outside their house, they've got like audio after audio. They'll be going to sleep, and they'll usually have their bedroom window open, and across the way, they will hear these howls, and they'll start howling, and then all of a sudden you'll hear like the neighbor dogs just start just going nuts, start barking and everything. And it's it's pretty amazing. They've got a lot of stuff that happens over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that the vocalizations. I mean, I don't ever get tired of them. I count myself blessed actually when I get to hear them. Every time I got to hear something, I consider myself blessed because there's so many people who are into this that would kill to be in a position of being able to hear stuff like this so often.
Yes, and you get something recorded.
Not to hear the howl. The first time that I heard the howl, I'd already been in a funk where a couple of months I didn't even go in the woods by myself. I wouldn't. I was overcome, and I wound up getting some spiritual advice from my cousin's mother, and who told me, you know what, you're a praying man. You need to put your faith in the good Lord, and I got past that, but then not long after that, I heard that howl for the first time, and it haunted me, guys. It bothered me. I sat down. I'm no poet. I'll promise you that. I sat down and started writing a horror poem. I don't know why. I don't even know why I did it. I guess I was just trying to maybe make sense out of it or get it out or something. But that howl bothered me, and it still bothers me when I hear it.
Hmm.
Wow.
I'm the one that has never seen or heard, anything Bigfoot. David's actually seen it, but for some reason, with all the people say there's no evidence, but there's a lot of compelling evidence for Bigfoot. You got the DNA, you got the footprints, even the Patterson Gimlin film.
Yep.
I don't understand why it's not acknowledged. I just can't. I believe it myself, but I've never seen it.
Right.
Plenty of evidence. I mean, there's just plenty of evidence, and the biggest piece of evidence is the record from Native Americans.
Yeah.
Yes.
We talked about that earlier. Tribes from all over North America, Central America, South America, they've got words for these creatures.
Yes.
And the Native Americans up in what is now Washington State weren't communicating with the Cherokee or the Shawnee or any of the East,
Yep.
And that alone is enough. It should be enough to compel people to at least consider it. And then you throw the thousands and thousands and thousands of sightings, anecdotal evidence, and anecdotal evidence is undervalued.
Yes.
They say, well, that's eyewitness testimony is the most unreliable thing. Well, that's not true. That's just simply not true.
Yep.
Especially, you're going to have folks who have encounters, and some people aren't very good with words. Some people are. And some people are very credible, more credible than others, not casting dispersions on anybody. But you've got all these stories of people who were very observant, very articulate, that was able to describe the details of their sightings. Just the anecdotal evidence alone, and then all the footprints.
Yes.
I get so aggravated with skeptics sometimes.
Yeah, that, Jason and I do a like we was talking before the show even started, we do a lot of stuff on the paranormal side. And this year we've been really honored that twice this year the Knoxville Public Library has had us come down and do a 2-hour talk. And hey, Paranormal Paul. And also the UT had us come down and do a 1-hour talk on the paranormal. All that to just say that, skepticism is something that we talk about during this, because you have healthy skepticism and then you have very unhealthy, right? Where no, that light ain't white. It's blue. Okay. Where nothing is what it is. And, it's healthy to say, okay, in a paranormal thing, could this have been caused by A, B, or C? You go through and you go through and say, no, it's not A, no, it's not B. Oh, look, there it is. It's C. And we've had times during investigations where we've been able to go back through and prove that something isn't paranormal, that it was something that's very normal, So a healthy skepticism, but these skeptics like you're talking about that just, you know, I don't even know how to describe them without being mean, to be honest with you. It doesn't make a lot of sense, you know?
No, it does not. It's closed mindedness just aggravates the snot out of me.
Yes.
And I was on Steve Sapp's show one time, The Covenant of Curiosities, and I was a co-host with her, and there was this guy. Well, I won't even call his name, but he had kind of bamboozled his way onto the show through false pretenses.
Oh,
But anyway, we started talking about Bigfoot, and I was going down through the laundry list, just like I just did with Native American history, with all the eyewitness accounts, with all the footprints, and he just kept saying, well, I don't buy into that. I don't buy into that either. I don't buy into that. I said, well, okay, you explain it. So, you know, he starts with a lot of it's misidentification. Some people are just making it up. Some people let their imagination get away from them. Somebody was out in the woods. That apparently there's been thousands of people in the wildernesses of North America from one end to the other for the last 200-300 years making fake footprints, according to this guy. So that's when I start getting aggravated. That's when I start wanting to go military on them.
yes. that's that's insane, you know. I mean, to even think that people would be doing that 200 years ago or something. I think that they were back then too busy fighting for their own survival to worry about faking some footprints of something. Um, that's kind of insane. You know, what I wonder about some of these people is when you get into the DNA evidence that they have gotten. A lot of it, you know, they've dismissed, but it's out of their own closed-mindedness that these people dismiss this stuff, because when you get time after time again from multiple different people the same thing, you have to start saying, well, then the evidence is showing A, B, and C. You know, when it shows a human female mitochondrial DNA, and then on the father's side, an unknown, um, uh, you know, great ape, and it does that time after time after time, no matter who's taking, you know, or gathering the evidence. How can you say it's tampering? It's because they don't want to admit that human female is an unknown that they don't want to recognize.
Yeah. They don't, they just refuse to think that there's some, here's what the insinuation is, the essence of what folks who hold this hard line are saying. We know everything. We've got everything figured out, and there is absolutely nothing beyond our knowledge.
Yes.
That's the essence of what they're saying.
Now they're putting themselves in a box. And so if anything comes in that challenges the notion of that box, they have to defend it, because now that would make everything that they've talked about this whole time wrong, and they'd have to go back to the drawing board. Yeah.
I have a lot of conversations, as you guys can imagine, from the things you do with the paranormal, where people start asking questions and, well, what about this and what about that?
Yes.
And, well, why don't we have a good picture? Well, we've got good pictures. We've got good videos. And I believe that there, over time, a few times throughout history, that they've had the bodies.
Yes.
Mhm.
And I think that it's possible now that as many Bigfoot researchers as there are, I think it's very possible that somebody may have come across a dead one. But if I come across one, you know what I'm doing? I'm not telling anybody.
Right.
For a number of different reasons. Number one, I don't want the black helicopters or the dudes in black Suburbans rolling up on my property.
Yeah.
I take pictures, maybe take a hair sample. I don't know what I would do, and leave the fellow laying there. And if he's not buried within a certain amount of time, I'll go bury him. I don't know that I would tell anybody about it.
Right.
But that's still be enough. We could have a dead body. And then they'd say, oh, that was faked. Or I heard that was this, or that was that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bottom line, you're not convince somebody who don't want to be convinced.
Right. Yeah.
I know there's a I'm sure you've heard of Mount St. Helens when it erupted, the stories that came out of there with the government and the military, helping the Bigfoot recover their dead and injured, and you got some pretty good stories from some credible people, like that were in the military. But
Well, what's crazy about like some of those stories too, Jason, is the fact that, you have one guy that was like a guard, and he was put in to guarding the specific tent, and he tells his story unbeknownst to some other people that were there that told their stories. And then when you put them all together, you get a pretty decent timeline of some of the things that happened. If it's not real, it's a really good made up story. But I know that there's got to be Sasquatch there. I've been by Mount St. Helens too many times as a truck driver.
Yeah. I mean, think about the vast wildernesses that we still have, even though we've had so much development still yet.
Yeah.
There's huge tracts of wilderness left in this country. I mean, the South Mountains right here in the foothills, that's 100,000 acres of deep wilderness.
Yeah.
And then the wilderness around in the periphery of the South Mountains, I mean, you're talking about another 50, 60, 70,000 acres of wilderness,
Yep.
cumulatively speaking.
Yep. That Cherokee National Forest and all of that's, right up in all there too. And which is another, huge swath of land that's just no one lives in. So we've got a lot of land, empty land for sure.
I had a national public radio crew that came, myself and my good friend Todd Landers. What NPR wanted to do was for us to take us in the woods on a Bigfoot hunt. So there was all the preliminary questions, and the reporter asked me. She said, "Well, do you really think they can still exist given the limited amount of wilderness?" And I just looked at her. I explained. I said, "There's 100,000 acres right there," and I pointed across the way to the South Mountains. I said, "Lady, if I wanted to take a company of soldiers into those South Mountains and we didn't want to be seen, we'd never be seen."
Yep.
And 100,000 acres is a drop in the bucket compared to some of the other places on further west. There's plenty of habitat.
yeah,
Yep. Do you believe that a lot of their the way that they do certain things is very similar to the way that the Native Americans used to live? Like in the winter they would have their places that they would go for their winter habitation versus their summer habitations and things like that.
Yeah, they definitely move. One of the when I first started kind of real behind the scenes trying to talk to some of the old timers around here. This was before I mean, there's very few people knew about our experience, but along the way I made friends. I got comfortable when I started talking to them about it. And one of the first things several of them said was, "All right, now where you live, Jerry, you're going to experience more during the winter. And during the summer, you'll experience less." He said, "Because when it gets hot, most of them go back up into the South Mountains on higher ground where it's somewhat cooler.
Yep.
Then in the winter, it's the reverse. They come off of the high ground where it's the coldest and back down here." And that proved to be absolutely the case. When it gets cold around here, at least 4 or 5 nights out of the week, I'm going to go outside late and I'm going to hear at least one or two things, a tree knock or vocalizations or what have you.
Wow.
And I think they do migrate with the seasons. I think they migrate if one area dries up, as far as with, say, deer, for example, they'll just move on.
Kind of follow the herds, almost like how the natives do. Do you think, or did, I mean, I say do, but do you think that tree breaks and things like that are a lot of the same symbolism that the natives used to use, where they bent trees, where you could still go into some woods nowadays and still see trees that are perfectly bent because that was a sign or a symbol from that the natives used to tell where they were. You think
Yeah.
some of that could be, the same?
Definitely the same school of thought.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And as far as the hunting techniques, one of the hunting techniques was you would have the watchers or the ambush party, and then you would have the chasers or the drivers. And so the ambush party would set up at a choke point, like at a holler, like the entrance to a holler, and the chasers would run the game toward them as they would enter the kill zone where they started being funneled. That's when they would get their kills. And I think that to this day, from the evidence I've seen with my own eyes, 500 yards from my backyard, is that the Sasquatches still do that very same thing. That's how they kill the majority of their deer.
Right.
Mm.
And then the Native Americans and other cultures around the world use that same technique.
Yeah. 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 Going up through Montana and stuff like that, being a truck driver, there's areas that you could go visit. They called buffalo jumps, where the natives would funnel buffalo into this area. Then they would fall off a cliff and it would kill the buffalo. Then they'd go down there and they would clean and do whatever right there. So they've found, thousands upon thousands of bones and stuff in there because that was one of the jumps that they used to push them into, funnel them down into that jump and make them jump off that cliff. Pretty crazy, but you do whatever you do when you're hungry. So the land between the lakes,
Yeah.
how does that stack up between all the other stuff that you've ever done? And I guess, I could also ask you, is this the first time that you had ever been there during this time that you had went? But how does it stack up between that week that you were there and what you've done previous in all the years that you've done it before?
Well, there's a similarity that I expected that turned out to be true was, like it is here in the South Mountains area. There's a lot of other things that go on as well, paranormal wise, ghost stories, accounts of witches practicing black magic, demons, black eye. There's even a story that I collected from a man whose wife had an encounter with black-eyed children on the western end of the South Mountains. But I knew enough about the land between the lakes. I studied up on it to know that it was a supernatural hotspot.
Yeah.
And once I got there, I absolutely felt that. Before I had a single experience, I felt it as soon as we got into that place. And then when the sun went down that night, I was regretting having put my tent so close to the wood line. But I could feel it. And we went several places within the land between the lakes. And yeah, it was my first trip. I didn't even know what the land between the lakes was a year ago. The guys on the NCI show one night started talking about the LBL. I said, I got a question. What's the LBL? Man, we're going to have to tell you about the LBL now. But anyway, I read a good bit about it over the past year and watched a lot of documentaries, especially the small town monster documentaries they've done, and Martin Groves.
Yes, his books. And his books are amazing.
Absolutely. That was a highlight of the whole trip was not only getting to meet Martin Groves, but hang around with him every day and make friends with him.
Yeah.
That guy, he's the real deal. He's got a couple of buddies that know the LBL like the back of their hands. Mark Roberts and Mike Smith, and getting to know those guys and just sitting and listening to the experiences these people had is just amazing.
Yeah.
I would say it's far more up there in the land between the lakes. It's far more concentrated. Plus, it seems to be a different type of experience with the cryptids. The graveyards, there's over 230, I want to say 232 known graveyards in the LBL. Martin said there's probably more than that has been overgrown now. It's a land of unrest. I feel like it's a cursed land because they forced the people off that property to dam the river up. But that the first day that we went out, me and Tim Deals, Robert Effler, and George Lunsford, we went to Graveyard Mount Pleasant Cemetery. And we kind of explored the woods around Mount Pleasant Cemetery. First, there was remains of an old work camp there. And guys, I know it when I feel it. There was a supernatural presence there, a ghostly presence, a demonic presence. I don't know, but there was a spiritual presence there as we looked at the ruins of these old buildings. And we were walking back up one of the dirt roads heading back toward the graveyard. And each of us heard voices coming from down below us in a small holler. We were able to see the bottom of that holler, and clearly there was nobody down there. I had experienced a couple supernatural paranormal things in my lifetime, but that's the first time I actually ever heard something that was some kind of disembodied spirit or something. It freaked me out a little bit. And then we started going, we explored that graveyard with respect and given the graves there the respect that the graves are due. And I had a feeling there. Robert Effler physically got sick and he had to walk out of the graveyard, and he had some type of device where he was looking through it and scanning the graveyard, and it had the potential for showing spiritual activity. But it was showing spiritual activity over a certain grave. And I went and looked at that grave, and it was actually a Medal of Honor winner from the Civil War. Now, this guy was given the Medal of Honor many, many years later in the year 2000. But someone had taken a grinder, the brass foot marker, a lot of graves, and the unit information, the unit that soldier had served in the Civil War had been ground off, and it was fresh. You could tell from looking at the metal that it was fairly fresh. And that was the grave showing the spiritual activity above it. And I believe that whoever, I don't know why they would want to do it, that came in to ground that information off to a soldier, having been in the military, your unit is something you're proud of.
Yep.
I was in the 2nd Airborne, very proud of that. To have the unit ground off, I mean, I don't know what that would do spiritually, but it done something supernaturally that upset something there. And I saw the evidence, and I went down, and Robert showed us all with that device, and we were clearly seeing it over that one grave and over that one grave only. So that was the deepest I had ever been in any kind of paranormal investigation. Now, if Robert started off as a paranormal investigator, I believe his crew was called Go Dark Paranormal, and then he wound up. But he's accomplished at it. George Lunsford is pretty good with the paranormal stuff. A couple other members of the team are as well. The first night that the night before that, we were hearing the vocalizations from up on high ground, and incidentally, there was a graveyard up there as well. And the vocalization was this fairly pitiful attempt at trying to mimic an owl.
It sounded like
I kept asking myself, on into the night, I would wake up and hear it and think, all right, is that a squatch? Is that a booger? Is that a ghost? What is that? I mean, it sounded otherworldly.
Yeah. See,
But
that's amazing.
It was the feel that it gave me. It was the feelings that it gave me.
Yeah.
Super creeped out.
That's incredible. We want to go, we're not that far away from it. That's what's funny, but we want to go and actually do, some investigation work up there on both sides of it in the paranormal side. Cause like you said, we've heard tons of stories of the paranormal activity that happens there. Um, but I just find it amazing because like you said, at your place, there's an old graveyard there, and then you have a lot of Bigfoot activity. Do you find that to be so more than not where there's Bigfoot activity near these cemeteries? Because it seems like a lot of times I hear people talk about cemeteries and I'll hear Bigfoot sightings.
Yeah, that's a common thing.
Yeah.
I think the best account that I've heard involving that was on the show, and y'all may have seen it, called "These Woods Are Haunted."
Mm-hmm.
Seen
Yep.
that?
Yes.
That's my favorite all-time series. I've watched every episode like 100 times. But in the first season, there was these two guys who were just getting into Bigfoot, and they bought some nice equipment and everything. And they went out into an old graveyard deep into the woods, and all hell broke loose. And I kind of got the impression that those squatches were being protective of that graveyard. And they also say, I don't know where y'all stand on the subject of dogmen, but they say that dogmen sightings are especially prevalent around graveyards. And that's what they say about the LBL.
Yes. Yeah. There's a lot of death attributed to Dogman and the LBL. And what's funny is that, Jason and I, we've done the Bigfoot conference there in Gatlinburg for 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't but a few years ago, we actually had someone come up to our tent and was like, "Hey, what do you think about about Dogman?" And I'm like, I don't know.
That's the first time I ever heard the term dogman.
Yeah. And so we started kind of doing a bunch of research into it. And I'll have to admit, at first I was pretty skeptical because I'm like, if you think about it, you can see where Bigfoot at some point could have been in the family tree and whatever, right? Because of the ape lineage and all that stuff. But where does a dogman come in? But I think once you start thinking about the big picture, and that's why I don't try to put any boxes around anything anymore. Once you start thinking about the big picture and you start thinking about, are these things interdimensional? Are these things popping in from somewhere else? Do they not really reside here? They come here every once in a while. Then it opens up a world of possibilities, yeah. And so then anything's possible. These people who say they see dinosaurs, that's possible.
Yeah, exactly. And the whole subject of portals fascinates me. I had heard stories of people hearing a very strange metallic sound in the woods, and that sound being associated with portals opening and closing. And one night, the guys from Dirty South Squatching that I'm also a part of, with Tim Deals, Bob Trent, and Dwight Campbell, they came to set up all their equipment. And let me tell you, those guys have got some good equipment. We set up in Creek Bottom. That night we recorded that metallic sound.
Really?
Sounded like a dumpster being slammed in the middle of the Appalachian foothills, hardwood forest. What's going to sound like a dumpster slamming? There, a metallic sound is very. There's no mistaking.
Yeah.
Metallic sound. Some people have reported more of like the sound of metallic cookware clanging together, all the way up to what I just described, with hearing the sound of like a dump truck gate slamming or a dumpster slamming.
And I know that I've heard of people who's also have heard those that have been close enough to it that also will get this ozone smell that comes off of that too, which is kind of an interesting thing to throw into the mix of all that,
I'm sure you've heard of Scott Carpenter.
I have.
Yeah. He's got some really interesting footage. He's passed away now, but I think his son has taken over,
Yeah.
most of his research. But he's got some really interesting footage about portals, and I think he even captured one opening up, and something was coming out of it. I swear, but it's an interesting video he's got.
Well, for all those people out there that they're going to always start throwing science in our face like we're idiots or something.
Yes.
The bitterness is coming out a little bit, ain't it? I'll try to tamp that back down. But yeah, they want to talk about science. Well, quantum physics says that it is very likely that other dimensions exist.
Yes.
And other dimensions exist. That means that we have to have a boundary to them, or even cross. The dimensions will cross through each other, or there's openings between, or wormholes between dimensions, and that is so far beyond our understanding that tonight here in November of 2025, we're talking about a metallic sound. Well, heck, in 20 years, they might have that solved and say, well, the portal opens and then it closes and there's a displacement and it causes, just like a sonic boom, it causes this giant sound to be.
Yes.
But it's scientific. It really is scientific.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And, we've done some shows on the many worlds theories and stuff. And when you start getting into quantum physics and that kind of science, it starts getting into mind bending things, because then you have to understand that every time you make a decision every day, you branch off another line off of your line, because when you decided to go this way, there was a version of you that went that way. When you decided not to stop here to eat pizza, you went ahead and went another 5 miles down the road. There's a version of you that stopped. And every one of those branches off infinitely. And so when you start talking about that infinitely backwards and forwards, anything's possible. And then the fact that these other worlds are less than a paper's, thickness away from each other. The possibilities of these things being able to open up and interchange in between the two are also the same. We did a show a few months back on quantum immortality. And what it pretty much states is that, have you ever had a dream that you were drowning and just before you died, you woke up? Well, see, you actually died, but your soul or the energy that makes you traveled from that person to who you are today. And so you didn't die, but you were consolidated into this other form. And so it's, I don't know, it can get into some mind bending things, but it's true. It's there,
Exactly. And people will, I didn't mention this, but I'm also a Pentecostal preacher, and people will say, well, I just don't think that all of this jives with our faith. And my answer to that is simple. And regardless of what anybody's faith is, but in particular, the faith that I practice, I look at them and say, okay, hold on a minute. So you have got our Creator so figured out that all of our Creator's limitations and boundaries and all of that. Well, my Bible doesn't say anything about Bigfoot, and I disagree with that. I think it does, but or these dimensions or whatever. I said, well, the Bible wasn't meant to be an explain all, catch all book. It's got the answers in it that the Creator intended us for us to know about, and then there's so many things that he didn't cut us in on, guys. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So
Yep.
you got the scientifics here, and then over here I got the folks saying, well, you're supposed to be a Christian, you believe all this, and I think you're wrong, and they're entitled to their opinion. I respect that, but
Yes.
I know this. I don't have myself figured out,
Yeah.
much less the good Lord or Bigfoot or ghost or dogman or portals or any of it.
Yes. Yeah. And that's what we like to say, that's all we're doing is searching for the truth, right? Every interview and every story we collect and everything that we do, that's why, I'm sure you even do these things is because everything is like another piece of that puzzle and it starts bringing the sharpness in on that picture to where you could start getting actual maybe defined edges and you could start understanding a little bit more about it. And every once in a while you're throwing a curveball or something and you're like, man, where'd that come from? But um I think in this day and age too, where we have too many people that are in it for themselves. So, oh, I don't want you to let you in on my research or my research area or my this or my that because that's mine. I honestly believe that if we want to find out who it is or what Bigfoot is or any of this stuff is, we need a long-term groups, whatever it is, 3, 4, 5 people that go for a month. And then the next group comes in for a month. You have 12 groups that just interchange for a whole year. They will stake a place out and that's all they do. And I think that we would, when you're only limited to a week here, a week there, a day here, a day there. I mean, that's like catching, that elusive fox that lives around you because it's stolen some chickens, but you only go outside at 3 o'clock every day and then you walk back in. You're not going to see it. That fox is smarter than you are. But if you sit out there and you watch, you're going to see that fox come in. And I don't know, but too many people get tied up on this, mine. They don't want to share their work, or anything. And you're not going to any field. And that's the paranormal all the way over. I don't think any of this stuff can ever be furthered quicker or better than if everybody just threw it all in a pot and said, this is what I have. This is how I get this information. This is how I've gotten all this stuff. And then you start discerning that stuff out and then build a better mousetrap, and because if everybody goes out there on the same page and is doing the same research, it just helps us all out. That's my little 3 minutes of ranting. Sorry.
I'm with you 100%. Even going back into the four horsemen of
Yes.
Peter Byrne and John Green and Renee Hendon and Grover Krantz. I mean, those guys were maybe the four greatest minds to ever work on this subject, but those guys didn't get along with one another.
Right.
And there was especially a nasty relationship between a couple of them. So imagine if they had completely and totally worked together. I'll tell you what was really encouraging. When we went to Land Between the Lakes, you had NCI was there, and then another group was there, and everybody got along. We shared information. We let each other in on stuff. We went out with them, and they went out to us. It was great. But you don't see that everywhere because people get so possessive. And I hate to tell them, but Bigfoot don't like ugly.
Right. Right. Well, and one of our greatest things as humans, we don't like to dwell on it, I don't think, but is the fact that we do have speech. We can communicate very well with each other. We can plan, You know, we can do all these things. If we would just put our egos aside for a minute, just set those at the door before you walk in, and go with the game plan. And, you know, everybody be damned about what it is, but we got this game plan and we're going to prove that X exists or just something, you know. I think that we'd get it done. We're just too smart. You know, I mean, we've got things in space. I mean, you was in the military, you got to see, you know, weapons and things that they were using before, you know, probably before people out here in the real world knew that they even existed, you know. And so we're very smart when it comes to things, but for some reason we're just not very well working with each other sometimes. You know, and I think that ego has a lot to do with it.
That ego, that pride and that ego and that arrogance is toxic, is poisonous, is poisonous.
Yes, sir. It is. It is. And that's one thing that we've got to learn how to get around is that ego. That's hard.
Well, we got like three minutes left. We're gonna let you
2 hours is already gone.
Yeah, I know. It's been a good show, man. Get a lot of good stories.
Thank you very much, Jerry.
If you want to give out, you know, your channel and everything about you for people to find you, you can do that.
Thank you guys for having me. It was an honor. I was so excited when we got the date set. Sorry about the one I canceled, but I had to go unexpectedly out to San Diego to help my son.
It happens.
Yeah, I didn't know that you had canceled, and I was saying, "Hey, we're still on for tonight." I didn't. Sorry about that. I didn't even look at the emails.
It's all right. I'm bad at not looking at emails either. I am notorious about that. My own personal show started on TikTok, and I still post my episodes there under J.R. Millwood. Now the same episodes are on YouTube. It's just under a different name, Rebels, Dark Tales of Appalachia. And recently I branched out and did a series of Rebels, Dark Tales of the Coastal Carolinas. Twice a week, I'm on the NCI show on the Channel 12 TV network, a streaming service that you can find on your Roku and Chromecast and all of that. And I'll also do a show on Channel 12 by myself called Truth, Justice, and Sarcasm, which is basically me ranting and raving for about 30 to 45 minutes.
Well, a good outlet.
Check that out.
Yeah.
Oh, Randy, the producer, told me you can talk about anything you want to. Nothing's off limits. So one week I may be talking politics, and last week I did a sermon. So you can friend me on Facebook, Jerry Millwood Jr. I'm going to accept friends until I hit the limit. 5,000, because I want to network. I want to talk to people. My very favorite thing, guys, the love I have in all of this, besides from being in the woods, is getting to hear people's accounts.
Yes.
From that is the thing that I truly love. That's how we learn.
Yes.
And I want to make all the contacts I can. And I just appreciate the people who've come along, such as you guys, who I instantly had a bond with and felt like I'd known you guys forever.
Yes. Yeah. We when we first got to talk to you, I was like, man, that Jerry was an awesome guy, you know?
I thought the same of you fellas and your lady. Man, those are awesome people. I met Paul for the first time there, and I kind of felt bonded with Paul, and then so many over the past year that I've been fortunate to make friends with. But you guys are at the top of the list for sure.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Yeah, we really appreciate that.
Yeah. It means a lot to us. So we're just out here trying to collect stories and get information, and hopefully we've not got into investigating Bigfoot yet, but we plan on going to the LBL at some point.
I've got night vision goggles for a reason.
But it's really great to have you on the show, and I hope you can come back sometime in the future.
I'll be glad to, guys. Just work.
Absolutely.
All right, man.
Word.
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 I got your email and your Facebook Messenger. I'll reach out to you again.
Yeah. We'll set something up for.
Reach
All right.
out in, guys. I just enjoy hearing from you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we'll see you January 31st too down there at the premiere.
Yes.
So
Yes,
sir.
Paranormal Paul. We'll see him and Greg and Natalie and all of them. So
yeah, great people.
Yeah, there'll be a crew down there. It'll be awesome.
yeah, we're gonna have fun. We're gonna go there the day before and hang out, and then we're gonna leave on Sunday.
Yep.
So
Good deal.
All right, Jerry. Thank you.
All right, my brother. Y'all take care. God bless, and I look forward to seeing you.
yes, sir. You too. You have a good night.
Good night.
Good weekend. Have a good Thanksgiving.
You as well.
Thank you.
Have you ever wondered what lurks in the shadows? What secrets the night hides? What strange phenomena might be happening just beyond your perception? Join us as we journey into the world of the paranormal, exploring everything from ghosts and UFOs to cryptids and unexplained occurrences. From haunted houses to all things paranormal, join us in the search for the truth behind the veil. Welcome to Paranormal 411.